And time to take a look at what's making headlines across the globe. And for that, I'm joined in the studio by Solange Mujane. Hello, Solange.
Hi, Annette.
And you're starting off with both Finland and Sweden seeking to join NATO.
Yeah, and joining NATO would bring an end to some 200 years of military non-alignment for Sweden and over 70 years of similar neutrality stances for Finland. It marks, the Financial Times notes, a historic shift and a new era of European geopolitics. Now, in the local papers, HBL, the Finnish paper, quotes the president saying that this is a historic day and that Finland's security is not a zero-sum game. But in the Swedish press, the cracks are showing already. The paper Dagens Nyheter says in an opinion piece that the Social Democrats' support comes without necessarily having prepared constituents for the rapid shift. And the paper Svenska Dagbladet even calls this potentially a defeat for the Social Democrats. This is because for decades the party was against joining NATO. And as Politico explains, Finland and Sweden have done a U-turn on NATO with, quote, two leaders orchestrating a carefully coordinated flip with remarkable speed. Now, this came with a risk of the party losing voter credibility in Finland and Sweden, but so far the site says that has not really happened.
And what about Russia in all of this?
Well, as we can see on the front page of Kommersant, the Russian paper says that it is whole world NATO, but it highlights future challenges as well, from getting the go-ahead from Turkey to potentially dragged out negotiations with other nations. Now, all the same, the Finnish and the Swedish moves are due to Vladimir Putin, who has, as Courrier International says, unintentionally helped bring NATO back to life. In the article's drawing by Tom, you have a gladiator that is NATO asking, who woke me up? Now, while an expanded alliance has enraged Moscow, as the Washington Post tells us, it notes that there is little that Vladimir Putin can do about it, with its military, quote, already ensnared in heavy fighting in Ukraine. There is little to do about this major strategic setback in Russia.
Now, to the US, where, of course, we've had that horrific shooting over the weekend where 10 people were shot and killed in a supermarket in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, and the press is widely discussing how the gunman targeted, in particular, black people. And The Atlantic writes that the gunman may be portrayed as a lone wolf shooter, but actually the ideologies he is thought to have believed in are shared ones. As the New York Times writes, the man is thought to have believed in what's called a replacement theory. It's an extremist idea that Western elites, manipulated sometimes by Jews, are trying to replace or disempower white Americans. Such extremist conspiracy theories are widely spread online, and they're also spread on U.S. cable news, the New York Times tells us. Now, it's not a new phenomenon, the Washington Post says. It's actually a theory that dates back many decades, and one that, though, in the last 5 years has had a resurgence, which has actually caused multiple shootings in recent years. Once-fringe, its rhetoric has actually, USA Today writes, seeped into the Republican Party, causing the GOP's, quote, modern legacy to be defined by violent white supremacists.
Heading to Africa, and in a long overdue election, Solange, Somalia has elected a new president.
Yeah, Jawar, the Somali site, it tells us that Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has been sworn in after a complicated, long-delayed, nearly 2 years, and indirect vote that was finally decided by the country's MPs because of security reasons. Now, this is the second time that he has been president of the troubled Horn of African nation. But as the Times explains, it's really actually a terrorist group, the Al-Shabaab militants, that control the country, be it in collecting taxes, running the streets, or even in deciding court cases. And in addition to such violence, Somalia is facing soaring inflation and a drought that has put some 40% of its population on the verge of famine. And the Somali site Hiran makes a parallel here between its woes and those of Lebanon, which also voted yesterday and is waiting to see how its next government will tackle its own instability.
And finally, Solange, you found a story about a rather strange bedfellow.
Yes, a canine one, actually. USA Today tells us of a Tennessee couple that while they were sleeping, a dog came into their bed. Now, this is actually normal for them. They have 3 dogs, so the wife thought it was one of their own. But then, in, quote, an urgent but calm voice, the husband asked, "Whose dog is this?" Well, it turned out the 40-kilo pit bull Labrador mix was actually a lost dog. Since then, the couple has managed to track down the owners by telling their story on social media. The 2 families have actually met and had puppy play dates, but no more sleepovers are in the cards as of yet.
Not the sort of bedfellow you want to wake up and find.
No,
in
especially
your
if you
bed.
don't have a dog.
No, definitely not. Thanks for that, Solange Mouja. And if you want to take a look at the stories we've been talking about, you can, of course, head to our website. That's france24.com.